pleasure to now introduce you to Daniel Odongo, who will be presenting Ushahidi, which helps community turns information into action with an intuitive and accessible crowdsourcing mapping tool that enables rapid collection, management, and analysis of crowdsourced information. Danielle, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julia, and thank you very much, I think, Ricardo, for the previous presentation as well. I think it provides the perfect segue into talking about Ushahidi, because I think for the second year running, we've been recognized as a digital public good. But just to get you started, I will share my screen. Julia, just confirm if my screen is visible.
We can see it perfectly. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. So I think as Julia introduced perfectly what Ushahidi is, I think if you asked me in one sentence or to explain Ushahidi to a 5-year-old, I would say we build technology that enables communities to raise their voices, but also allow decision makers to take that feedback to make actionable and evidence-based decisions. We are laser focused on making sure that decisions are being made around communities around the world that reflect the context, needs, preferences of communities, and to ensure that especially marginalized communities are not forgotten. Our existence has been since about 2007, so it's about 16 years now within which Ushahidi has been present. We were born in Nairobi, Kenya, and we are really proud to say that after all these years, we have been used in about 160 countries now. And Ushahidi, I think, before I even go very far within this presentation, I'd like to say it's a Swahili word that means testimony. Testimony basically relates to the fact that we would like every individual to speak out and have their voice heard. So perhaps on the screen right now, you are looking at the first deployment of Ushahidi ever. This was, like I said, 2007. An election had just taken place in Kenya. And basically, there was an information blackout. Very few people knew what was happening around the country. And even those who thought, or agencies, organizations who thought they might help, did not know where to start. And what you can see is different hotspots around the country, around areas where, you know, there were riots, deaths, property loss, amongst others, that were being mapped by actual citizens. And I think initially we were using SMS, and individuals, citizen groups could be able to text via SMS, and this would be automatically mapped onto this platform. Since then, we've grown into a feature-rich platform. I mean, the channels that we offer our users are quite a number. I'll have a demo later on where you'll be able to see this in a bit more detail. But I think right now, you can be able to integrate SMS, Twitter, or X as it's called, with an asterisk, because we're having a bit of challenges, as everyone might be having as well, in getting data via the Twitter API or X API. Then WhatsApp, and then the mobile and web apps that we provide, and even open data. You could have CSVs and upload all of this onto one integrated view within the Ushahidi platform. One of the features that I really like is the fact that you can have a real-time pulse about what's taking place. So with filters, you're able to, you know, search by location, dates, or even the precise issue within the Ushahidi deployment. And all of this is organized for you to be able to view and also visualize. Visualize in the sense that you can also have one view with hotspots all across the deployment aggregated, so you can see areas that require more attention and areas where, you know, perhaps over time, the trends of what's taking place require the attention of the deployment owner or the local authorities. So those are the three mentioned at some point during this presentation. And I think this last part here is really critical. It doesn't really take place within the platform. We provide currently workflows for you to verify. As you know, what's key is being able to enable response. Within this aspect, you work with entities outside the Ushahidi platform just to make sure that the reports don't only sit on your Ushahidi deployment, but also these reports can be escalate makers or actually maybe government entities or even NGOs who can actually support in response to what's taking place on ground. And like I mentioned, over 160 countries to date where the Ushahidi platform has been deployed. And we are really proud, like I said, to our tool that was born in Africa related to issues that are typically faced by people across Africa, like poor governance, corruption, low bandwidth. But we've been able to come up with a tool to allow these citizens to speak up, aggregate their issues, and also make sure that these issues are put before the right people who can actually act. And I think, like I said, there's over 160 countries where the platform has been used, but there's over 200,000 deployments within these countries to date. And we are really proud to say that this is one of the core examples of innovation that is coming out of Africa. So just to speak about our theory of change, within Ushahidi, our focus is to be able to provide that tech and expertise and put this in the hands of mission-aligned partners. For the partners, their role is pretty much to collect and work with end users just to get the data and insights that they would like to gather. And we offer you the channels for you to be able to do this, as well as the technology for you to be able to translate that data into actual insight. The visualization feature is something that is really powerful that we are constantly improving. And we're proud to say that we're trying to have a bit of automation in there for the deployments that collect a lot of data. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned, we want to make sure that there's system level change. Citizens need to feel more included in decisions that are being made about them. Organizations need to be more effective. Policies need to be more inclusive. And as an open source platform, we also want to ensure that we're giving back and making sure that we're growing together with the community and making sure that anyone who wants to actually collect data from communities, especially the marginalized ones, has this tool within their hands. It's at this point that I'll just pause and give a demo. If there are any questions, feel free to keep them in the Q&A, but I'll be able to attend to them. So I'll just switch over to okay. You'll please let me know whether you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. What you're seeing is an example of an Ushahidi deployment. It's an internal deployment. By internal, I mean it has actually been created by the Ushahidi team, just in keeping with our promise since what took place in Kenya in 2007, to make sure that we recurrently in every election cycle try to make sure that what took place does not happen again. And in this sense, we have an initiative called Uchaguzi, where I think in the last Kenyan election in 2022, August last year, we worked with about 22 partners. And the idea was to make sure that there's increased transparency and accountability in the election. The particular deployment you're looking at is a self-hosted one. And I think there was a question earlier around what are the, formats in which someone can actually use Ushahidi. You could either self-host it, basically take our code off GitHub, put it on your servers, and it will be yours. I mean, you'll be able to still access our support channels via GitHub or even directly via email, but the deployment will be fully in your hands. Or you could decide to use our hosted service, which basically we either work with you as a grassroots partner at no cost, or if you have a project or program, we typically collaborate to see, how we can provide dedicated resources for your long-term objectives. This particular one is an example of a self-hosted deployment, meaning it's on private servers. The channels that we chose to use were, a multi-pronged approach with over, I think we're about 22 million Kenyans going to vote across the country. We decided to use multiple channels to be able to collect feedback from them. Toll-free SMS, where we provided a toll-free short code, as well as USSD. USSD basically taps into the familiar experience on that Kenyans already use via M-Pesa. So we also tap into the same experience to allow you to complete surveys. At the time, we use Twitter hashtags. So basically, anyone who was having a conversation along these hashtags, that information would automatically be pulled into the deployment. And then we also had WhatsApp, which is quite popular right now. We've offered a number where someone would still be able to share information about what's taking place within their community. So besides that, we also provided support, both documentation and an email address where, you could be able to talk to us and receive direct support during the election. That was primarily for our partners. And what you're looking at here is the map view. Map view in the sense that you could see the geospatial distribution of reports. And when you spread out, you could be able to see, probably areas where there are hotspots, a higher number of reports as compared to others. This sits on top of OpenStreetMap, so they're the ones who power our map layer. We also use Mapbox to support with some of the georeferencing. And this is something that we are constantly improving. I think in some areas, you might notice the mapping isn't so good. So OpenStreetMap also allows us to activate local communities to map their communities for good. Besides the map view, you'll also see that there is right below it a data view. Within the data view, you basically have a timeline of reports, like I mentioned, and you can be able to see reports as they came in. This is from all the various sources of data that we're having, and you could see individuals expressing themselves and sharing about what is actually happening around the country in real time at the time during elections. And you can see it's just about 1 year ago when this was taking place. So that's the data view. There's the activity view. Disclaimer that there's a bit of work going on this. But ideally, you should be able to see the volume of reports that are coming in, a filter just to see over time how many came in. Of course, most of these came in last year, so I would have to go backwards to get that information. But I think for the upcoming version of the platform that I think should be out within, I think just to give all of you a sort of heads up, by about November, we should have a new version of platform out, which will have a lot of insights in here. I think we're also renaming this activity view actually to insights, because we're trying to bring deeper reports and availability of data to users. These collections, I'll not talk much about this, but basically this allows people who are working within the deployment to actually create their own collections about pockets of information that could be useful. You could see, for example, within this deployment, we are doing a bit of risk mapping, based off the data that was coming in, low risk, medium risk, high risk, or nature of incidences. And these are just examples around how you could use collections. This is entirely up to you, the deployment owner, and how you're organizing the data that you're receiving. Help and support, like I mentioned. Then you might see that this is public information because I've not logged into this particular deployment. That also is the reason why you're seeing just a few reports in here. These are basically reports which have gone through structuring, verification, geolocating, to make sure that they make sense and they are safe for the public. If I logged into this particular deployment, you'll see that there's almost 100,000 reports that were actually received. Depending on the way in which the deployment owner wants to organize the information, you do realize that within this particular one, we are assigning reports to partners, all the 22 partners to work with us. But also, we did realize that a large number of reports that we received were in the category misinformation or fake news. And in the spirit of not wanting to propagate those reports, we do not, I think, by principle, publish those. So there's quite a big number. And yeah, I think that's it. We have functionality for you to search, filter by different filters that you might have, status of reports. Like I mentioned, we have a large number under review or archived and published. We have categories, urgent, undergoing verification, escalation, geolocation, or even by the source of the report that you're having. Date ranges would filter by date, location, etc. So this just allow you to, distill down to get the exact data that your deployment is receiving. Yeah, I think this is just a brief demo of what an Ushahidi deployment looks like. This particular one is self-hosted, meaning someone basically can just go to GitHub and put this fork the code and get it running on their server. Also, what you're looking at is a preview of our upcoming version of the platform, actually. For those who have interacted with Ushahidi before, you'll notice that the look and feel is a bit different. But our team is hard at work just to make sure that we improve this platform we improve this platform just to serve the communities, and we are migrating into a data company in the sense that we want to make sure that we are not only a data collection tool, but we're actually making sure that we have a role to play in ensuring that there's systemic change as a result of the data that we collect. So that's who we are as Ushahidi. And I think I will pause right there and hand over the mic back to Julia, and I'll be happy to take questions later on.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much. Now we have a couple of questions here. The first one is from William Alarcon. He's saying that the solution seems amazing, but it is hard for governments to hire professionals that are specialized, and they are costly. There are few of them on government. So he wanted to learn a little bit more. How is your support for governments who are implementing Ushahidi? You mentioned that you give some sort of support, and I think he wants a little bit more detail because he might be interested now in asking for the support himself.
Okay, perhaps I can take that right away.
Let me just add another question from Juan Manuel, because he congratulates you and also asks a very similar question, which is there any available or organization or some kind of partnership that is available specifically for Latin America. I was very happy to see that the Ushahidi have been implemented in Argentina, Brazil, Bahamas, Barbados. So is there any specific special collaboration with Latin America and the Caribbean?
Okay, can I take those questions?
Yes, of course. You can answer. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Okay, thank you. So the first question, I think great question about government engagement. Typically, I think we've as well struggled just to figure out ways in which we can match government's typical procurement cycle and making sure that Ushahidi fits within specifications that work for government. We've had governments use Ushahidi typically as they take our open source products, then own it within, government frameworks. And these are typically individual developers probably working for government institutions. But we're trying to take this, a bit in terms of a professional relationship. And we've been working with GovStack, right here is it, to build a messaging block, a block that basically allows governments to be able to communicate with citizens and sort of fit Ushahidi within frameworks that can be reusable by governments. Not only one government, but basically one that can be a version of the platform and also frameworks for partnership that work for government. So I think I would say if it's possible, I could leave my email address. So after this, you could be able to reach out. We could share a presentation of what our approach to working with government is. And I think we are also happy to share a couple of use cases where Ushahidi has been used by government. I'd be happy to engage on that front. And then the next question about Latin America engagement. I don't know if any of you has heard of La Frena La Curva. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I think this was a collective, I could say, that took the Ushahidi platform, and maybe you did not know it as Ushahidi, but there are over 2,000 deployments of Ushahidi during the COVID-19 pandemic that were dedicated to connecting communities to essential services. And all these countries, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, amongst others, had versions of the Ushahidi platform being used by non-profit organizations, community organizers, to be able to connect individuals or citizens or communities that were in need to essential services during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen very many deployments. I think there's one called Mapas Delitos that is also using Ushahidi for quite some community organizing, making sure that there's government citizen, local government citizen interaction, allowing citizens to be able to voice out concerns from potholes to things like demand for health services. And yeah, I think this platform has, this version of Ushahidi that's being used by them has actually been, I think it's about more than 5 years old right now. So this is just to say that there's so many groups out there that's actually using Ushahidi beyond even our knowledge sometimes. But I'm happy to share some examples of these deployments for you to look at. Quite inspiring examples of how Ushahidi is being used across Latin America within the resources that will be shared after this. I'm happy to share that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniel. There's a second type of questions here, which is related to the crowdsourcing part. So there's one question that asks, how do you deal with people's lack of knowledge many times on technology, and how do you teach them to use Ushahidi? And the second question is there any type of verification of the information that is being shared considering that many times it involves the emotions of citizens?
Okay. I think at Ushahidi, despite being a technology platform, we like to say that technology is only 10% of the solution, and 90% of this is engagement with communities. And I think one of the approaches that we always encourage deployers is, yes, you're going to start a crowdsourcing initiative, but talk to the communities, try to understand their needs, preferences, but also try to understand the context within which you're using Ushahidi. Get out of your closed boardroom and actually go out in the communities and speak to actual people. Carry out, focus group conversations to try and figure out, why the crowdsourcing initiative that you're undertaking is actually one that is needed by the community, and try to build critical mass of support. Let the communities understand the work that you're doing and how it's going to benefit them and cause change. I think this is one of the approaches to crowdsourcing that we feel has worked. One where you organically go out and actually try to build critical mass of community organizing. And this is, I think, one of the keys to why Ushahidi has worked to some communities more than others, simply because crowdsourcing is not just setting up a form and saying, hey, share feedback, but actually you engage the communities before you introduce technology, and technology should just be an enabler for this process. So these are some of the guiding principles we like to share with deployers. And then just the second part regarding, I think, just please read that question for me. I don't want to get it wrong.
Oh, if you verify the information, is there any way to verify the information? And we're a little bit over time, so if you can answer in 30 seconds.
Will do. So yes, there is a verification workflow within Ushahidi, and this workflow is backed up by a methodology that we typically like to share. Happy to also to share this. It's sort of like journalistic standards before a report is published. As you saw in the demo, I think just about within the last election, we've published maybe just over 10,000 reports around what citizens were saying. But a large number of those reports are actually still, within processing because they could not be verified. And right now we're carrying out a post-mortem just to try and understand the extent within which that feedback was actually being shared. But then, yes, there's a verification workflow within Ushahidi. With the rise of volume of information, we've also seen the rise of misinformation, fake news, and we encourage all deployers of Ushahidi to actually carry out the workflows and steps that are provided within that workflow to enable you publish only verified and accurate reports.
That's amazing, Daniel. Thank you. And we are over time, but there's a really good question here that if you can answer just one more in 30 seconds. Afonso is asking, if there's any examples of the Ushahidi being used for environmental monitoring, quality, environmental impact at the national or regional scale?
Yes, I think there's a number of initiatives, I think, within Latin America and Asia Pacific. We've been supporting quite a bit of work that is trying to support marine conservation, basically technology for biodiversity. And we are happy to share those as well. There's a number of deployments also within the African context where community groups are using low tech to be able to share feedback around what they feel governments could actually do to support their climate action initiatives. So also strategically, Ushahidi has included climate action as part of our thematic areas of focus, I think starting last year, simply based off the volume of deployments that were being created within this particular area of action. So once again, I hope my email address will be shared, and I'll also share additional resources, especially links to these deployments we have quite a number. I'll basically filter out those within Latin America by thematic area, just so that the audience can be able to look and engage with those deployments. Thank you.